Welcome to Rise to Liberty Podcast, the best podcast you've never heard of, fighting for free speech and spreading the message of liberty. Find us at risetoliberty.com for everything related to the show, including our merch, social media, episode player, and much more. Let's see. Thomas Queter is rolling for New York State Senate. The people of District 52 has been used and abused by a bloated and corrupt government. Thomas has been fighting his whole life and is now taking the fight to the ones responsible. Give the people of District 52 a fighting chance and head over to tomfor52.com and leave a donation. Greasy Porcupine's Mobile Auto Repair, helping the people of Arizona to maintain and repair their vehicles for a reasonable price. Little money, no money, Greasy Porcupines still wants to help. Open Monday through Saturday, 24 hours a day. Just visit greasyporcupines.org or call 602-845-0105. Now today, we've got a pretty special guest. Is the host of Monero Talks. You're just on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, we all the podcast channels as well, Spotify and all those, but yeah, YouTube.
So we have Doug of Monero Talks, and it's a really great channel for all things for the best cryptocurrency out there. I would argue probably the only actual cryptocurrency.
All right, we should just end the conversation right there. Normally, yeah, right? I have to convince people of that, so that's refreshing.
So how's it going today?
Good, man. Good. Everything's good. I was working today. I spent the day working on the Monerotopia. We're throwing a conference in Miami, April 7th, actually during the big Bitcoin conference. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but we're throwing it on one of the days of their conference because we thought, since there'd be like thousands of people down there, maybe some would come to the Monero conference. So I've been putting that together, trying to get some guests. So nice. A good day, man. It's always a good day when I'm focused mostly on Monero. That's my passion.
Yeah, I hear that. So for my guests, there not a lot, I would say, are crypto savvy.
Okay.
But would you like to give a quick rundown of why you chose Monero versus pretty much anything? Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, so I could obviously talk about this for days, and I do. But the short story is I started off as a Bitcoiner, like a BTC Maxi. Actually, my first coin was Doge, but this is when it first launched in that like I had watched Bitcoin for a year or so before it without understanding what the technology was at all, just thinking it was another attempt at creating a digital cash, so to speak, but without understanding that somebody actually figured out how to make a decentralized payment system. I just thought it was, like these other attempts, and it was just going to be shut down. And then I saw this Dogecoin thing launch. This was like late 2013. And I was like, oh, let me try to 100x my money, because at least, I know these so-called cryptocurrencies are good for that. I bought $50 worth of Doge, and this was on Christmas Eve. This is why I remember the date so well. And I woke up Christmas morning, and all my Doge was gone.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I had saved it on an online web wallet, which is like, the number one thing not to do, especially back then. And without understanding why that's a bad idea, I saved it there. I woke up and my $50 of Doge was gone. So I was like, what? I was like, this makes no sense. I was like, there's no way this technology is going to do what it's proposing to do if everybody's funds are just going to get stolen so easy. I was like, there must be more to it. And that sent me down the rabbit hole, and I started learning about crypto, and I read the Satoshi white paper, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. All you have to do is, you hold that private key, and nobody can take your crypto. It's unconfiscatable. It's digital cash. You can send money anywhere. Nobody can see it. I was like, and that's kind of where I hit the roadblock. I was like, wait a minute, but it's the way this technology works is like all the transactions are recorded on this ledger. It took me some time to realize the implications of that. It took me like maybe a good 4 months. And then I started seeing other people pointing it out as well. I was like, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, it's a great first attempt. I get why it's being done that way, but it seems like the outcome could be horrendous. Mostly because you're going to be able to track and trace every single transaction that anybody makes, right? And once you begin to associate people with the addresses that they have, you could essentially surveil people and track and trace all their transactions. And then just from a monetary or a standpoint, monetary standpoint or digital gold standpoint, it just breaks down and no longer works as digital cash or digital gold if every unit effectively no longer equals every other unit. It's no longer fungible, right? Because every transaction comes with a history. And so that's kind of how I found my way to Monero and been studying it ever since. And we can get into some of the other aspects, but I think one of the things that's not even talked about as much with regards to Monero, in addition to its privacy or fungibility, is the fact that it's built fundamentally different than Bitcoin in terms of how it scales. And it has some techniques that essentially, I believe, allow for it to become more decentralized and censorship resistant than Bitcoin over time. And that's why I'm
honestly, that's one of my favorite aspects of it, is because most every cryptocurrency is either based on, Ethereum or Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I found that Monero wasn't, I mean, the security was the biggest thing that drew me to it. I mean, I don't like the idea of my checking account being out on the internet. I wouldn't put my financial records out there anyways. And so why would I allow that? Why would I invest in this new technology that will display my checking account everywhere for everyone to see?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not sure why anyone would be. I am a proponent of government being on Bitcoin, though. Being able to see exactly every single Satoshi and where it's spent.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? So Bitcoin can be the coin of, that governments use, and Monero could be the currency of the people, right? So allowing people having the freedom to transact freely without censorship, while keeping governments completely transparent and open. It's an interesting idea that people talk about as maybe that will be the outcome. But I'm not sure. I'm not so sure governments are going to want to go down that road, right?
No, not if they have a choice at that.
Right. The other thing people don't really talk about often about Monero too is obviously this idea that it's private by default, but you can very easily, and it's getting more easy, audit. If you're audited, show your transactions with view keys. So while it's private by default, you could easily opt out of that and show people your transactions as needed. So, that's something that people kind of discount. But in my mind, that makes more sense so having this system where it acts as digital cash, but when required, you can, opt out or opt away from what it's supposed to be doing and show your transactions as needed, so it conforms with regulations if need be, right? Because that's one of the major criticisms of Monero.
Yeah,
and I believe the purposes of crypto is to be built in such a way that it's not asking for permission to exist. It just exists, and no regulations can stop it. I think that's what the purpose of crypto is, and most cryptos, when you look at them, aren't really built to achieve that. And I think Monero has Bitcoin beat there. But yeah, just bringing up this fact that if necessary, you can show people what your transactions were by providing view keys, which I think is important.
So what made you want to start Monero Talks, other than the obvious of being into Monero itself?
Well, it really was just that obvious. I wanted to learn about it more. And so I wanted, I was kind of going down this road trying to figure things out, and I had my own questions. And so I just thought the best way to have those questions answered would be to talk to the experts. And best way to get the attention of the experts is to start a podcast. And so that's why I did it. And, so most of my guests are, devs and people that are working on the Monero project. And it's really me searching, asking questions and trying to understand if my hypothesis is correct. I like to believe, I originally framed the show as, me on this mission of discovering whether or not Monero is the truest cryptocurrency, whether or not it's true digital cash. And so far that's, I continue to believe that. I like to believe that I'm open-minded enough that if I started to realize otherwise, I would, say those things. But I don't know. I don't know how honest I could be there, because at the end of the day, I do hold bags, so I think it's important to be honest about that. I mean, you see a lot of these crypto guys, especially these BTC Maxis, and they're out there talking Bitcoin up all the time and how it's digital gold. And you just got to wonder if how many of them are actually, being objective, or whether or not they, whether they truly believe in all the things they're saying, or it's just because they're pumping their bags. So I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I probably it's hard to remove yourself from that, but I like to believe I'd have the ability to do so if I started to doubt Monero.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's, I don't know, the ideals behind the Monero community is really what drew me in. And I think it's really interesting. It doesn't really fall upon a particular political line or really any sort of ideology necessarily. It's really just people who put privacy as a major importance. Of course, all the FUD, anyone who doesn't know, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, comes out about it is that criminals use it. They hit the dark web. I think that's kind of interesting, and it's like all kinds of criminals use the fiat dollar. So I'm not sure what your argument is here. So, because you're not planning on abandoning the U.S. dollar because criminals use it,
right?
It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
What does make sense to me is having people stay out of my bank account. I should be able to transact with whoever and whatever company I want, as long as I'm not hurting somebody else. I don't see the issue with it, and that's what drew me in. Of course, I lean more libertarian. That's where I come from politically. But there's people of all persuasions on all sides, and I find that really interesting about the community itself, and they're really welcoming.
Yeah, the Monero community is extremely diverse, and I often try to figure out what exactly it is we all ultimately agree upon, because there is this real collective passion that's there, and it's for building digital cash, obviously, but, I think people's philosophies around why that's important are different, but they all happen to believe it is important. But there's definitely it's not cohesive in terms of people's day-to-day politics. You have extreme left-wing people on in the Monero community, extreme right-wing. You have obviously a lot of libertarians, and I know this because I've been up against them in ways where I would even with our Monerotopia conference, we had a big issue with that. We had one of our we were going to have Chris. I don't know. Are you familiar with Chris Sky?
Name sounds familiar, but
he's very popular in Canada. He was kind of pushing the the anti-vax mandates over there. He was
Okay,
against
I
vax
know
man-
Chris.
Yeah. And I had him on my show. I like him as a character. I like his passion. I like his ability to lead people, and I like what he's doing over there in Canada. I didn't know that much about him when I reached out to him, but I thought, here's an interesting guy who should really be into Monero for what it stands for and what it's capable of doing, especially somebody who's trying to lead a controversial movement essentially against the government, right? So what I see as a very important use case for Monero, for digital cash, this ability for minority groups, especially minority political groups that are trying to achieve something, to be able to fund themselves without censorship, right? That's important. So I reached out to Chris on those grounds and introducing him to Monero, and he had already heard about it. He wasn't really that into it. He was actually into Ripple, which I was like, what?
Okay.
So I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, you're too smart for this. And so I got him into Monero. We started texting, and he downloaded a wallet, and I sent him some Monero, and he was understanding. He was picking up. I had him on the show, and we had a great conversation. Anyway, I ended up asking him to be a speaker at Monerotopia, and we had him on there on our website, and a few people in the community came at me very, very strongly with regards to him being a speaker, and they didn't want him to be a speaker. And they started saying, well, he has this past where he said a lot of very controversial, super racial and anti-Semitic things, and they sent me all these examples of it. And then now here I am caught up in this, right? And I am this hardcore free speech advocate. I believe in literally free speech money. But at the same time, I'm throwing a conference, and I have important people that were supposed to be a part of the conference that essentially no longer want to be a part of it if this person's a part of it. I had my back up against the wall. I was like, you know what? I reached out to Chris. I was like, are these things true? What you're being accused of? And there's, these past copies of past things that he said supposedly. And he just refused to answer. He was like, well, I don't want to respond to the accusations, because even just by responding, I'm giving them whatever more credit than they deserve. So I was like, I need something, man. So anyway, long story short, I ended up having to quote unquote cancel Chris Sky, right? It was bad. And so then I had half the community hating me for canceling him, and then the other half that were glad I did. And I had me who was like, oh man, did I compromise my own ideals because of what I did here? So what I ended up doing was reformatting the entire event and creating an aspect of it where people can literally just sign up as speakers themselves without gatekeepers, and they can just self-select and self-register for a portion of the conference. Because I was like, the problem was I was a gatekeeper. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. And by putting myself in that position, I really had no choice, because I didn't want to lose some of the other big speakers that actually were going to come and talk about the code. So I've experienced firsthand how diverse the personal politics are within Monero. But yet everybody comes together and believes that it's important for us to have digital cash, even though it means, like you said, that's going to give evil people and the equal ability to use it as opposed to good people, however you may define those. And that's the problem, right? So what may be considered a crime today, we may not consider a crime tomorrow, right? And so when people point out that criminals are using this, it's being used for bad things, it's, okay, well, who decides what's good and bad, right? And, I don't think anybody would want, a system where, this is a very extreme example, but systems where, basically your minds can be read, kind of a thought police type thing. No, certainly nobody would agree to that, right? Nobody would think that's a good technology, even though it could prevent a lot of crime. So why are you then not okay with a system where you can freely transact? Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, the way we spend our money and what we spend our money on and how we shift the value that we control really represents what our deepest concerns and thoughts are. It's like free speech itself, even deeper in some levels, right? I could be saying one thing, but where I put my money is really what I care about. And so I think fundamentally, philosophically, it's important to create a tool where anybody can put their money wherever they want without censorship. And yes, it's going to give all people that ability. And people are going to point that out as being a bad. But I mean, any amazing liberating technology like that is going to have that same exact issue, like the internet, right?
Yeah.
We saw that same exact thing with the internet itself.
Yeah, criminals use the internet.
All major criminals are using the internet. The internet has made it a lot easier for a lot of people to commit a lot of different crimes, but I don't think I think 99.9% of the world would agree we don't want to get rid of the internet.
Yeah. A lot of people would just argue to censor it and restrict it, which, we know how much criminals like to follow laws and regulations. So, that somehow is going to help.
Right.
Speaking of controversial figures, you were actually able to interview John McAfee before he passed away.
I did. Yeah.
How was that?
It was very cool. I wish the interview. I wish I could do it again. I didn't really know what direction it was going to head in. I think he was a little inebriated that morning, which obviously is anyone should expect. Yeah. But it was kind of hard to wrangle him in. And actually, at the time when I spoke to him, he wasn't a huge Monero advocate. It was like I was debating with him. I was like, John, what do you like? Come on, man, Monero, And he's like, yeah, he was going off the handle on me. And he was, because that's when he was pumping a lot of these other, fly-by-night projects.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of criticizing him about that. But what's interesting, he ended up becoming quite the Monero advocate a few months after that. But it was an honor to speak to him. He's obviously another controversial character, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if the things he's been accused of or whatever are true or not or whatever. But what I do appreciate about him is his fierceness in fighting for liberty. And that's the same thing with Chris Guy. That's why that's why I liked him as a character. It takes a lot of guts and determination to be out there acting like that and fighting for liberty. And so I appreciate that. And I was happy to have him on. It was very cool.
It does. And people like this, it's interesting because it takes people like this to really be able to fight for liberty. The masses don't always know what's best.
You got to be on the fringe, man, unfortunately.
Exactly. It's nothing is ever... Innovation hasn't come out of playing it safe, So I think that's really interesting, which is also what I find interesting about the Monero project itself. Launching with Bitcoin and everything, you've got all of these other projects, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. There's just thousands of them, new ones coming out every single day. And then you have a group of people who really come out and see the issue with a lot of these digital currencies in the potential for abuse. The way I see it is that this could really screw up humanity unless we take control of it and put our stamp on it, which is the biggest reason I'm a proponent of Monero. It gives the power to us.
Exactly. Yeah, what's a little, I don't know if you agree with this, but what I find a little bit troubling with the Bitcoin Maxi movement is where, we're seeing people opt into this transparent ledger, right? And they're opting into it with the belief that Bitcoin is what Monero actually is, right? So a lot of them are like, when you see them on Twitter and out there screaming about Bitcoin, they're talking about it in ways that more closely represent what Monero is. And it's concerning because we know that that's not what Bitcoin is. And that the likelihood that Bitcoin evolves to the point where it's going to protect people's privacy on the protocol level is very slim. It has a lot of forward momentum for being this number go up technology, and that's really what its design goals currently are. So any changes that are made, any way it's sold, it's all about what can we do or say that will increase the price. And doing something controversial like adding privacy into the core protocol level is probably not going to be good for mainstream adoption, for governments to start saying we're going to be stacking sats, for big investment firms to be putting their money into cryptocurrency. And so the design decisions that are being made in Bitcoin are for those purposes. And it's kind of scary because there is so much momentum for these number go up purposes. And everybody's converging on that. And so the people that are in it, the people that are designing around it, and the people that are being brought into it is for the purposes of making more money, right? And they've completely discounted the fact that it may not be equaling more liberty at the end of the day, because they're just seeing it as, well, I'm getting richer, and that means I'm going to have more liberty. Well, not if we're all transacting on a transparent ledger where, your Bitcoin isn't as unconfiscatable as you thought it was, where all your transactions can be tracked and traced and maybe perfectly taxed in the future, where companies can start to surveil it in the way they surveil your social media and learn more about you, understand you on a deeper level. Learn how businesses are, giving certain people advantages over others in terms of those that have more resources and are better able to interpret the data. All those things don't lead to more liberty. And it is concerning because it has so much momentum. And like you said, here we are with something like Monero, and we're in the, in the back, hey guys, Monero. And they're like, shut up, it's a shit coin. And a lot of people, a lot of noobs go along with that. They're like, yeah, it's because they're interested in the make money fast scenario.
Yeah.
And so it's scary because I do think we're at the crossroads, because if Monero gets left behind, then I don't see something like it eventually taking off in the future. That being said, though, I do feel like it is quite inevitable, and I can't really see the scenario where it does get left behind, only because it really does provide such a strong, valuable use. Like we said, with like the dark markets, right? They're moving to Monero. Anybody who has spent a little time looking at this stuff is moving over to Monero. Like, why take the risk? At this point, it doesn't make sense to still use Bitcoin for those purposes. It's just a tremendous risk, and it's too easy to just use your Bitcoin to get Monero. And then you have the vendors that are requesting Monero instead of Bitcoin, some of them doing Monero only. And so because of that, I think it's going to naturally stay alive. It may stay fringe for longer than we want it to, but I don't think it's going to be killed anytime soon. And it'll just sit there and it will wait until society realizes that it's probably best if we all adopt this on a broader level.
Yeah, I agree. It's, in my opinion, I'm not sure how you would feel about this, but I definitely view crypto, but especially Monero and some of the other privacy coins. I'm just all in on Monero, though, but you've got Pirate Chain, which I like the project. I think there's some issues with it. I think Monero's a lot more solid. The community is a lot funner, a lot cooler. You like some of the things you guys do. with some of the conferences and everything, plus the show, which I highly recommend everyone to go subscribe because it's a great channel.
Thank you, man.
But cryptocurrency and specifically Monero, I view it as an IQ test.
Exactly.
Because I see certain people they push a lot of these stable coins or things like Bitcoin, which are not privacy centered. And then we've got a lot of the what is it, CBDBs,
Central
or
bank
the
CBDCs.
central bank
Yep.
digital currencies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just adopt Fedcoin, it's a digital version of the fiat dollar.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone paying attention to the markets right now can see the tremendous problems that we're running into. Prices are going up, and I try to correct people on that. It's like prices aren't going up. Value of the dollar is dropping. They keep printing and printing, making it worthless. A lot of these issues are actually taken care of with some cryptocurrencies. I think it's kind of interesting that Monero itself has been kind of suppressed, and so the price has been kept down.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that I don't see Monero going anywhere. Maybe an improvement upon the basis of it at some point. But I think more and more people will start seeing the utility and the importance of privacy, especially in the digital age we live in. Would you like to highlight some of the things that you can actually do with Monero? I know you guys have a project with coffee farmers.
Yeah, so obviously, right. So dark markets, if you're one of those people and you're going there, I recommend you use Monero for that. Beyond that, for doing things in the day to day in the real world, we sell coffee for Monero, and it's from Guatemala. And we sell it at this website called gratuitous.org. And what's unique about it is we've created a way where you can send tips in Monero to the farmers or the workers at the farm that pick the beans. And so we started the company for that purpose. So to create a use case for crypto, positive use case that can demonstrate something that you wouldn't be able to do pre-crypto, right? There'd be no way to, send 10 cents, 50 cents, zap it across the world to, somebody who picked your coffee beans without crypto, right? You can't use a bank account for that. You're not going to put 50 cents in the mail. Western Union, the fees are too high. There's just no way to do it. But with crypto, you could literally give Guatemalan workers, some of them don't even have smartphones, although most of them do. You'd be surprised. Give them a private key. Give them a 25 seed phrase, their own seed phrase, and say, hold on to this. And now people around the world that are buying this coffee will be able to send you tips. So there's that use case. There's coin cards I like to use on for daily things. So that's just a way to buy gift cards with Monero. Amazon gift cards, right? So if you could buy an Amazon gift card with Monero, that's literally like 98% of the stuff you need to purchase. Whether you think that's you want to support Amazon or not. So that's a good use. And I don't know, there's lots of people on the day-to-day that are just agreeing to accept Monero. Where I saw it most being used in the flesh and blood was when I went to PorkFest. Are you familiar with PorkFest?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been?
Never been, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Got plans to go in the future.
Yeah, I hope you go this year because we'll definitely be there.
Perfect.
Yeah, I had heard about it for years and just never went. And I was like, I want to go because I want to see, are people using Monero there? Because if they're not, There's a total like disconnect there between what's going on in crypto and what. And sure enough, I went this year and lots of people are using Monero there. So long story short, Monero is slowly being adopted, but it's being adopted organically and for the actual use case of cash. And it's not people that are just trying to, purchase a store of value. I'm trying to think what other examples I could give you of places accepting it, but off the cuff, I don't really know. Those are the big ones I do is coin cards. Travala, you could buy plane tickets with Monero. We've used it for that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's at the point where you could live off of it. And then obviously anywhere where any crypto is accepted, you could very easily convert your Monero into any crypto on the spot. I don't know if you use Cake Wallet. I use Cake Wallet.
I do.
Yeah, our shows are sponsored by Cake Wallet. And they've figured out how to make it very convenient to run a Monero wallet. And they integrated now payments or change now into it. So on the spot, you can convert any crypto into Monero or vice versa and send it to, any wallet address. So that you could easily hold Monero and easily send it in any other form. They're going to be integrating Thor chain. I don't know if you're familiar with that into Cake pretty soon. And so you'll be able to do the same thing, but instead of using Change Now, you would be using Thorchain, which is essentially, it's going to be a more decentralized way. So you're not going to be going through a third party. And it's going to be, a way to kind of, in an unstoppable form, transfer your Monero into any other crypto. So we're at the point where you could essentially use it for whatever you want, is basically what I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? Like, while not everybody individually is saying they accept Monero, if you want, you can figure out how to spend Monero for that thing and get it. But obviously, I'd love to start seeing more people accept Monero directly. In New York, I often, when I'm out and about, I mean, obviously with COVID, it's things are kind of dead around here, but in my daily life around here, I try to get people to accept Monero all the time. And with crypto being as popular as it is, people may have not heard of Monero, but they're usually willing to try it out and accept it. They're just like, download Cake Wallet,
it's so easy.
Yeah, I'll tip like waiters at restaurants. I'll convince them to download Cake and be like, let me send your tip in Monero.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Cake Wallet. I've also used Edge, which I'm a pretty big fan of. I prefer Cake Wallet, I think, just because I've got an iPhone, and I'll be honest, in my opinion, 95% of all cryptos are just garbage. I think there's a very small number of projects and everything that are actually worth it. So I don't have a wide range of crypto holdings. I mean, I like some of the other projects. I do like Litecoin, the cheap fees and being able to switch Monero for Litecoin or vice versa. There is one company that I buy bullion from. It's Money Metals.
Okay.
And they accept Monero.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's another thing I've been purchasing. Haven't been able to use any yet. But there's gold backs. I don't know if you've seen those.
Yeah, I got them from PorkFest. People were buying our coffee with gold backs, and we were trading Monero for gold backs.
Yeah, it's great. Two of my favorite currencies, bullion and Monero.
I gotta say, my daughter preferred the gold backs to Monero. She, holding the there's something to be said for holding something physical in your hands, right? That represents money. I'm holding actually some Roman coins right now. I had them on the desk. The original fiat. Okay, it's a nice reminder.
Yeah, exactly.
How worthless it can become.
Exactly. It's interesting seeing how how much money is being printed. I mean, it's one out of every $5 has been printed in the last year.
Well, this is what's opening people's eyes, like you said. So it's the money printing. People are like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? I mean, we've never been more aware as a society of what money is than today, right? I mean,
yeah,
I think 10, 20 years ago, nobody was talking about what money is. We were just there using money. There was no invention going on in the world of money. We all just used it. Very few of us stopped to think about what it actually is or was. But now not everybody, but it's entering the mainstream, right? People are starting to question money. And especially with all this money printing is opening up people's eyes, right? They're like, why is my gallon of milk cost, 50% more than 2 weeks ago? Inflation is extremely real right now. It's not some theoretical thing. People are seeing it. And they're wondering why it's happening. Yeah. And then they see crypto as this alternative. And then the other thing is, like you said, the CBDCs. That's going to be, I think, a catalytic event. Once those start to roll out, it's, I think, being rolled out in China already right now. They have the prototype built and they're already testing it. I think the goal was they were going to really try to launch it with the Olympics. And then you have other countries that are going to compete and try to roll out their own. So it's all coming, right? So like, whether it's a year from now or 5 years from now, people are going to be getting introduced to CBDCs. Their country is going to try to start getting them to use it. And what I hope will happen is people will question it, right? You'll have plenty of sheep that just move along with it, especially if they offer you incentives to start using it, right? It's going to be like, get $1,000 free central bank digital currency if you download the wallet and move all your money into it, whatever it may be, right? There's going to be incentives there. But I think that's going to be one of those events that really starts to open the mainstream's eyes to all of this, and they're like, wait a minute, is that what Bitcoin's like? And then they'll be, everybody can track and trace all my. I don't know if I want to be using these CBDCs. The government's going to know everything I do. They're going to control it all, and then they'll start to. But with Bitcoin, that won't be the case. And then we'll be like, wait a minute, is that also possible with Bitcoin? I think those are going to be. That's going to be one of the events that starts to open people's eyes.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you see Monero heading, based upon what's happening now?
In terms of what? Price, adoption?
Adoption mainly.
Well, you look at all the metrics other than price, they're all up, up and to the right, so the hashing power is going up. The transaction count has been hitting new all-time highs. It continues to grow. So it looks like a very healthy adoption rate. And I just predict it's going to continue to grow. Price, I never really try to predict price. I just had somebody recently on Monero Talk. We did a good show on it, and he was doing some analysis and looking at transaction counts and comparing it to price. And it's like, any which way you slice it or look at it, Monero is highly undervalued compared to what its actual adoption rate is, right? We're seeing actual real world use, but we're not seeing that really reflected in its price, especially compared to every other crypto. That's where 99% of them aren't being used at all and are just being purely speculated upon. So my prediction is
just holding.
Yeah, my prediction is the price is going to go up a lot. Or maybe Monero is the only fair valued crypto right now, and everything else will move down towards it. I don't know, but either way, it's undervalued relative to all their cryptos. I think price will go up a lot, and I think adoption is going to continue to grow as people realize the importance of digital cash and where that it's required for certain uses.
Yeah. There was a bit of information I picked up from your channel, which I absolutely love. I can't remember off the top of my head what episode it was. And I think it was you that actually recommended doing it. But it was just when you're at a store, a coffee shop or whatever, ask the merchant if they accept Monero.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, man, I would really love to pay for this. If you guys accepted Monero, I guess I'll just use the dollar.
I may even pay a little bit more if you accept Monero.
Yeah, exactly. I'd throw a couple extra dollars for a tip.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying before. I think that's a great method, and you'd be surprised the amount of people that would take the time, because they've seen how high some of these cryptos have gone, right? And like, oh, here's your chance to get, $30 in Monero. When are you going to get it otherwise? And you're getting it without KYC, right? You're literally getting it in the best way you could get it, peer-to-peer. And you explain that to them as well. You're like, oh, I'm passing you some anonymous digital gold. You want some, or you want some of this fiat? Like, yeah, you take your $30,
exactly.
or maybe you might want to try this out. It worked out for, Bitcoin. And yeah, you'd be surprised the amount of people that will stop and take it.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because it is extremely undervalued. If you look at some of the charts, I do enjoy the fact that it's stable, considering, so some of these cryptocurrencies are just all over the place. Even Bitcoin itself is just, 60,000 1 month, and now it's down to 41. That's a huge swing.
Yeah.
Monero's been pretty stable.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend watching this show that we recently did, and yeah, we go over all these, like, looking at different ways and why it's undervalued and where it may be going, and we toss out. He's the guy who I had on. Forgetting his name. Chad Thackeray, I believe his name is. He was throwing out some big potential numbers, like in the many thousands. He was basically saying it wouldn't really make sense for Monero to ever go below like $110 at this point. And that, it's fairly valued between that and $1,000, no problem right now. And then as you go up in time, obviously all those numbers continue to go up into the many thousands. And he was actually saying that, Monero is pretty volatile. There are a lot of big swings that just don't happen as often. So you have in Monero, it's interesting. You just have like these long periods of nothingness, and then you have extreme volatility, much more drastic than a Bitcoin. And that Monero is overdue for one of those extreme volatile moments when you look back at its history. And that it, we'll probably see something, maybe not to the degree of a 2017, but something again like it in terms of its price movement. And if we were to see that right now, I mean, the numbers would be, astronomical compared to what they are right now. 10x, no problem,
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, all of crypto is pretty volatile.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of that's due to its it being such a new technology, relatively speaking.
Oh yeah, the liquidity is still relatively low, right, compared to the dollar and everything else. That you could, if you move money into it, you're going to affect the market cap. So obviously, Monero is a lot more susceptible to that than Bitcoin, but even Bitcoin is susceptible to that. It's going to take a long time before things really dampen out, and you could dump $1 billion into it and it won't budge. But that's going to come with time. I mean, there's those that say even at that point it's still going to be volatile, but I don't really buy that. If you get massive full on adoption, then yeah, it's going to be a hell of a lot less volatile than it is.
Yeah. I agree. So what do you say to the people who are still just against getting into crypto at all, Monero or even Bitcoin?
I guess it depends what their reasoning is. I don't really understand why anybody would be against it. Like, why would you rather let the government steal from you? Unless you're literally benefiting from that in some way, then sure, that makes sense. If you're the guy, the one or two, one of the five guys that's benefiting from that, then sure. But chances are you're not. So you should try to push this technology along, get into it, and we'll all benefit from it. I can see people's hesitance because they don't want the early adopters to have a windfall, right? So there's so much greed at stake here. The people that are already in it are greedy and they want to get new people in it, and the new people are like, well, why do I want to step in and make these people even more mega wealthy than they probably already are? So I think a lot of the hesitation comes from that. But at some point you're gonna have to bite the bullet and realize, crypto is not going away. It's here to stay. So if that's your reasoning, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because you're just going to be a laggard and you're not going to benefit from the growth. So if you're hearing about it now, and you're against it, that means you're thinking about it, and you should just, try to really be objective about it. Realize that it's here to stay, and you might be missing a great opportunity to invest in something. Is what I'd say to anybody that's on the sidelines.
Well, and the biggest things I've heard, the biggest criticisms is there's no like daily case use. You can't say it's this many Bitcoin that equals a cow. It was an actual
unit of account.
The unit of measurement, because it's still tied to the US dollar in many ways.
Sure.
Or the euro or anything else, the yen. I think it's always going to be tied to other currency. All currencies tied together. Bullion's still tied to the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the only determining factor in its price, but I think it's just kind of a weak argument as far as...
Yeah, like you said, so all currencies are currently like that. Obviously, the dollar being the most used currency is one that people can most relate to. So when they see things, they can most understand what the value of the dollar is because we all use a dollar. But as that changes and we start to use Bitcoin and Monero more, that mindset will change and people will start to value things in those currencies natively. So, for example, I've been all Monero for quite some time, so I think I more naturally start to value things in Monero than the dollar. And as more people opt into it, they'll start to do the same. So it really comes down to what your own, what you really hold really determines how you start to view and value other things. And so as more people move into it, they'll start to use it as a unit of account, I believe.
Yeah, and I think the other largest criticism I've heard the most, probably people not understanding crypto. That's one thing I love about the crypto community, but specifically Monero. Once again, the community is great. The subreddit r/Monero is great. The Telegram group, everyone's always usually really helpful. Have no problem explaining anything. I've talked to the devs on Twitter. Well, some of the people that are known anyways, not everyone's out in the open. But it's interesting that all it takes is just asking a question. And most people haven't even asked questions about anything regarding crypto. There's something to be said about it. Massive banks, corporations are investing in it. Why would these corporations, typically publicly traded, who have to appease their shareholders, dump so much money into something that's not worth anything?
Yeah, I think, it makes sense why people are hesitant to invest in something they don't understand. I wouldn't advise anyone to do otherwise. But also, there are plenty of things people do invest in without truly understanding it, right? You buy Apple stock, it doesn't mean you really understand on a fundamental level how an iPhone works, right?
No.
You buy a Tesla, it's self-driving, but do you really understand the algorithm that's controlling that? And, do you have faith in the fact that it won't just, smash into a wall? No, you have faith in the engineering behind it, right? So you look at the company, you try to understand who's building it, you try to understand if there's enough capital and intelligence behind it to where you can trust the tech. And so I think the same thing is with crypto. It's like you get in a 747 and you trust that it's going to make it to the other side, but you don't know all the technology behind it. So we do this all the time. So I think those people that are discounting crypto because they don't understand it should try to look at it like other technologies and realize they may never really understand it on a deep, deep level. Like I know I've kind of already peaked at in terms of the deepness I can go. I can understand new info coming in, but I'm never going to understand the cryptography on a deep level, right? I won't be able to look at that and be like, oh, I get why, that's doing that on a mathematical level. But I look at what it's supposed to be doing and what I'm told it's supposed to be doing, and I trust that there's the people that coded it and the mathematicians behind the cryptography. If they're all doing what they say they did, then it makes sense that it can work. And then you just have to make sure, try to investigate and see if you think there's enough brain power working on it. But yeah, that makes sense why there's hesitancy there. And so that's gonna decrease with time. So as more people are studying and looking at it, then more trust will be gained in it. Monero, that's one of the advantages Monero has to some of these other cryptos that are trying to be privacy coins. It's been around for a longer time. So there's more trust being gained in it that the technology actually does what we say it's going to do, as opposed to some newfangled version of it that might be more private. But are you going to trust it? And so
Zcash.
Zcash, there you go. So anybody that's like on the sidelines for those reasons, just try to investigate it to the degree that you can understand it. Download a wallet, get some of it, hold it, write down the private key, there's some basic concepts in crypto that anybody can understand if they just take some time to look at it. And even if they just grasp those, their mind will be blown. Just this idea of just being able to generate your own, public key from your own private key, right? You don't even have to touch the network and you can create a wallet essentially. I remember the first time I realized that kind of blew my mind, right? Realizing that it's all being run on encryption. And then that opens your eyes and you start to realize, wow, it's working based on these mathematical principles. And you start to realize maybe it is unstoppable. Maybe you can't hack it, So I encourage people that are on the fence for those reasons to do some research. You'd be surprised. It may seem more confusing than you think. But once you start to slowly peel the onion pieces away, you'll understand it. You'll grasp it.
Well, and it's initially, I was blown away by the fact that you just turn into your own bank.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control of the ledger. All of these things that a bank does for people, you're now in charge of. It's a big responsibility. It's a big thing to be in control of. But it really is a lot simpler than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Just some basic understanding of how to be safe with it, I think, is one of the biggest things. It maybe took me a month of independent research, and that wasn't even every day, is when I had extra time to be able to research it. After work or whatever, on the weekends and stuff. I would read articles, I'd watch videos. That's actually how I stumbled across your channel. Getting more into Monero and everything, and the privacy, learning the security side of everything. Make sure I didn't have my coins taken. So just learn some basic stuff like that, and it's really easy to adopt, especially with the QR code scanners. Certain wallets, Coinomi, Cake Wallet, Edge Wallet, certain things like this, the non-custodial wallets, to where you actually own something instead of holding the funds on an exchange. Don't recommend Coinbase for anyone unless you do want to go that route. But, a lot of KYC, know your customer.
And you
There's
can't
other ways
you can't
to go
even buy
around.
Monero there.
Yeah, exactly. They list it and can't even buy it.
Yep, you
It's
gotta
like,
you gotta,
you
you gotta
check
wonder
the price.
why. I mean, that should be something like when people hear that. Oh, why don't they sell
Yeah.
Monero on Coinbase? It's been around since 2014. There's all these other dog coins being added, but they haven't added Monero. Ask yourself why. And then that should lead to you realizing, oh, maybe it's doing something that certain people don't like, which means maybe it's actually working as intended.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what was? Oh, I was gonna say, so anybody who's listening now, because I don't know if some of your followers or listeners are these people that are kind of on the fence with crypto. If you're on Twitter, tweet me and download Cake Wallet and tweet my name and send out your receive address, and I'll send you some of your first Monero just to get you started as an incentive. I'll send you whatever, a few bucks. It's good. You should. If you're on the fence, at least download a wallet and try it and experiment with it. And that's the only way you can start to really judge the tech. And like you said, the most important thing, I mean, at the end of the day, if you just remember the one thing, which is to write down your private key, you really don't need to know much more beyond that. Beyond that, it could be as simple as using, any other app we use in this day and age for payments,
Yeah. A lot of these social media apps are a lot more complicated.
Exactly.
Would
you say, because I mean, obviously most of your listeners I assume are libertarians, right?
So, typically, I try not to be a libertarian podcast. I'm a libertarian with a podcast.
Okay.
So,
because I'm curious, do you think there's a lot of libertarians that are on the fence with crypto as well?
I think so.
Because I could see the technology being an issue, but this idea of understanding being your own bank and why you may want something theoretically like a cryptocurrency versus the fiat, I feel like libertarians would understand that very quickly.
Oh, I think libertarians are a little far behind socially as far as Monero goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the ideology personified in a digital currency.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of internal politics that are, I believe, holding the ideology back. Other than that, there's a lot of people into cryptocurrency. A lot of people in my local state party that are into it. A lot of other people that are really interested in it. They just haven't taken the plunge yet. So it's something I would like to actually see the formulated parties actually invest in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have some crypto holdings. I'm not sure exactly how the election finance stuff would be handled as far as that, but then again, you got things like Bitcoin, which could be fully and openly traced. So I think there's a place for something like that. Opt in with Monero and let everything be seen, like you were stating at the start.
Mm-hmm. Show your view, King.
So
I ran for Congress in New York in 2020, and it was very much on a pro Monero platform.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was the reason I ran. It was literally the reason I ran. So I ran because I saw, kind of saw where the puck was headed, and I just wanted somebody to be on the floor of Congress that would stand up and argue on behalf of digital cash, on behalf of free speech money, for what its actual real purpose is, and not say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about it because it's actually traceable at the end of the day, right? Which is what what we were seeing people in Congress saying, right? So when Bitcoin was being brought up, and to this day when it's brought up, when it's criticized for things like being used for whatever money laundering or nefarious purposes, the answer always is, well, actually don't worry about it because it's on a transparent ledger. So if anything, it's making it easier for us to prevent these things. And what I want to see is somebody who'd be up there, Monero's attack, because it's obviously not easier for those things, would then make, the free speech money arguments as to why it's important. And because I haven't really heard anybody to date make those arguments, because they're somewhat dangerous arguments to make for all those reasons we're talking about, right? Because this technology can be used for good or bad. But I haven't really heard anybody make the hardcore arguments as to why ultimately it's good, right? It's going to yield more liberty. And so I ran for Congress, and I ended up getting swept up in the day-to-day and having to talk about many other issues completely unrelated to crypto, because most people in my district, this is 2020, they had, obviously a lot of people starting to hear about crypto, but nobody has heard about Monero. So it was interesting. And I would like to see, the parties start to come out, talk about it more, particularly I ran on the Republican line, but I'm shocked to see the Libertarian Party as a whole not be more vocal about it. I know they're vocal about crypto, but let's see people starting to, fight the good fight with regards to Monero. That's where the real fight is, right? So if they were going to try to essentially ban Monero, would people stand up? What representatives in this country would stand up and make philosophical arguments as to why that would be, contradict the ideals of this country? And I don't know how many you would see do that.
I don't think we would have any. I mean, it's like I said,
even the most pro crypto congressperson, I don't think would.
I just think it's because Monero's not known. It's even the crypto community itself. It's still like you can talk to people that are all in on crypto and don't know anything about Monero, even though it's within the top 50 coins.
Which shocks me, because where are these people getting their information from, right? Like, what type of research are they doing where they're not finding their way there?
Yeah, it took me a matter of a month, maybe a month and a half to find Monero.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's hidden, the amounts are and everything, but beyond that, the information is readily available to everyone. So getmonero.org, by the way. So do you want to tell everyone what's going on with the convention you guys are holding down in Miami?
Yeah, so it's just a one-day conference, Monerotopia, April 7th in Miami. It's at the same time that the Bitcoin 2022 is going on. Theirs is like a 3-day conference. It's literally down the block from it. Prices are super cheap. It's like $59 we set the price for. I think we're going to raise it to $100 pretty soon, which is extremely reasonable. I think Bitcoin is like $700 for a ticket. If you're a whale, it's like thousands of dollars. So we're trying to make it very accessible, and it's going to be a free speech money conference. We're going to talk about Monero. We're going to have devs there giving presentations on the tech, and then we're going to have an evening session that's going to be open to kind of really anybody that wants to show up and talk, kind of an open mic. I was telling you about that before, so people can self-register for that, and that was in response to what happened with the canceling of Chris Sky. So trying to stick with our ideals and create a version of a conference where even we can't be held accountable, right? So we can make it as free speech as possible. So we'll see I don't know what that's gonna what's gonna happen with that evening portion. But yeah, basically it's just gonna be a bunch of Monero people hanging out. We're gonna have McAfee themed cocktails being served all day. I guess we'll start as early as possible. I'm sure that's what McAfee would want.
Yeah.
And people just hanging out talking Monero all day. So it should be cool.
That's
Monerotopia.com for anybody that wants to try to grab a ticket.
Yeah, and I guess we're gonna wrap up here. It's been a blast, honestly.
Cool, man.
Glad you guys reached out and everything. So we've got some work behind the scenes that we're gonna try and do a little integration and promote some of that. I can't remember the name. The coffee.
Oh, Gratuitous.
Yes, Gratuitous.
Awesome, man.
We're gonna
Greatly
start
appreciate
working on getting that promoted on our side.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, because it's a project I really believe in, and just Monero itself, I absolutely love, and anybody who's out there spreading the word, which I was so stoked on you guys coming on and everything, because I have a hard time catching up on podcasts and everything, but your guys' show is definitely one that I always tried to watch. It's just one of those things.
Awesome, man. I know there's so much information right now. It's like hard to pick and choose, right?
It is, but I think you guys have one of the better Monero shows. And there's a few out there, but not all of them are super active. So I highly recommend anyone go check out Monero Talks on YouTube. And where else are you guys located?
Yeah, so we have Monero Talk and Monerotopia. They're both on the Monero Talk YouTube channel. And then you can find us on Spotify or iTunes if you just want to listen to it. We put all the shows up there.
Well, right on. Well, cool. It was a absolute pleasure to have you on. So
thank you, man. Greatly appreciate it.
We'll have to get you back on and talk some more Monero.
Yeah, would love. You could come on. Maybe we could have you on ours, or you could come on Monerotopia if you want. That's the Monero Talk is where I interview people, and then Monerotopia is just we do it every weekend, Saturday mornings. Please feel free to jump on anytime you'd like. You could talk about whatever it is you're concerned about that week. You could bring up your podcast. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the Monero community that would be interested in what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's continue to collaborate. Let me just repeat. So my Twitter is Douglas Tuman. So like I said, anybody who's like on the fence with Monero and just wants to get some, download Cake Wallet or whatever wallet you want to use for Monero, but that's probably the easiest one to get started with. I would suggest Cake or Moneruju. And then send me your address, figure out how to do that, and whatever, tweet me at Douglas Tuman, and I'll send you a little Monero just so you could experiment with it. Yeah.
Anybody has any issues, just reach out to me, and we'll get you set up on a wallet. So thanks again for coming on. It was a great pleasure, and we'll work out me getting on over on your show.
Awesome, man. I'm just thinking, what we could do? We could give away a ticket to Monerotopia if you like, too. If you want to give that away to your audience, I could, I don't know how you want to do it, but I could send you one.
Yeah. We could work on something like that for sure.
All right.
So, well, cool, man. Hang out for just a little bit, and everyone go to risetoliberty.com, risetoliberty.com/free speech before they start censoring on Telegram. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but I've seen a little bit here and there, kind of got to take it. So check us out there. We have a pretty spicy Twitter, pretty spicy Instagram. So check those places out before. Otherwise, we're on Rumble. Odyssey is where we're going to be putting most of our stuff from now on. YouTube. It's great, right? Gotta love that.
Yeah, I should mention we're on Odyssey as well. Everything we post goes up on Odyssey as well. Definitely.
That's awesome.
Recommend people.
So make sure and check out these guys over there, and we'll be seeing you guys next time.
Ciao.